Now with cinematography grid, it's coming, so we're waiting for them.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Мистер Уоррен, ассаламу алейкум. Меня зовут Эльдар Юлдашев. Я ректор Института кинематографии, председатель Общественного совета Узбек-кино и член Художественного совета Узбек-кино.
So he's saying, my name is Eldar Yuldashev, and I'm a head of the Cinematography Council, and
Cool.
a guide of Geek University and a geek or guide of Cinematography Agency.
Okay.
У нас также сейчас присоединились руководители агентства кинематографии, руководители киностудий, Узбекфильма и Центра кинематографии Узбекистана.
Now guide of Agency of Cinematography is now with us online.
В этом году, в октябре месяце, будет Ташкентский международный кинофестиваль.
So going to be 15 Festival of Tashkent Cinematography.
Этот фестиваль он будет проводиться третий раз, то есть он был в 2021 году, 2022 и будет в этом, 2023. Вот. И мы бы хотели и сейчас начать обсуждение, и потом уже в двухстороннем порядке с вами обсудить участие в нашем фестивале.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored to be invited. That's very kind of you, and I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
И сегодня здесь, помимо руководства агентства кинематографии, здесь молодые кинематографисты, поклонники творчества, кто видел эти фильмы, там «Я легенда», другие все фильмы, где мистер Уэйн непосредственно принимал участие.
So there is many your fans and young cinematographers that know your work and the works what you've been in, and they want to ask you questions.
Great, no problem. I'd be happy to answer them. You know a little about my background, right? I'm a film editor, and I've done quite a few films. I'm part of the Motion Picture Academy, AC, a bunch of things like that. You probably already know all this stuff, huh?
Он был бы очень рад провести для нас мастер-класс и ответить на пару вопросов. И, как вы знаете, он работал в многих кинокомпаниях, поэтому у него большой опыт, которым он может поделиться.
И мы извиняемся, сейчас у него воскресенье, выходной, 11 часов ночи, и он для нас вот нашел это время.
Mr. Warman, if you decide to come, your visit will be government sponsored, so if you'll have a window to come here and be a part of a jury for October's movie cinematography festival here, we'll be very happy to have you.
Well, thank you very much, and I'd be very honored to join. Do you know what the dates are for the festival?
Let me clarify.
Первая половина октября.
So we don't have the exact date for now, but it would be approximately
Okay.
somewhere between 1st October to 14th October, somewhere in between, yeah. But
I see,
we will
somewhere
reach
there.
out-
Okay.
We will reach out to you once we have a clearer date.
Cool.
И потом можете сказать, у нас на первый фестиваль как гость приезжал Люк Бессон. И мы с ним подружились, и на следующий кинофестиваль он уже был не как гость, он уже был, участвовал в нашем проекте, сорежиссером был.
So last time we had a guest you probably heard of, Luc Besson, and he came. Yeah, he arrived for once as the part of as a guest, and next time we had partnership with him. We partnered in a project with him. So again, if you'd like to come, we have lots of prospects to. Yeah.
Да, и возможно вот его визит тоже у нас будет какое-то партнерство,
yes.
дружба и будем.
Yes, we would, first of all, yes, again, if you decide to come, it would be great. And who knows, maybe we will be able to establish some partnership and work on some projects together.
Sure. Oh, it sounds great. Yeah, Luc Besson's a great filmmaker. That's very cool.
Yeah, Eldar Yuldashev, the representative of our agency here, is saying that again we will reach out to you with clearer dates and information. But for now, we wouldn't like to take a lot of your time. But if you could tell us a little bit about your work that you did on Constantine or I'm a Legend, we would like to hear. Yes, anything that you have to share.
Okay. Wow, that's a tough question. Well, I'm Legend. We were trying very hard to make that feel like very realistic, and so we tried to use as little music as possible in the film, much to the composer's dismay. Keep wanting to put more music in the film. We wanted it to be very stark and realistic.
Использовали музыку почти в фильме. Is this the reason why you didn't use a lot of music for it to feel realistic? The only reason, or was there another reason why you didn't?
That was the reason we didn't put much music in it, because we wanted to make the film feel lonely and very realistic. We wanted it to feel like more real than a motion picture generally is.
That's great. Would you consider it as a tip for us? Like, if we were if we were to work on a movie that would like to make more realistic, apart from using music as less as possible, what else can we do to make a picture like more vivid and live as we can?
It depends on the motion picture. It depends on the story. It depends on the every movie is its own individual case, and it's up to the filmmakers to really explore how they want to proceed and make that film. And it's interesting. There are no real hard fast rules. You just you want to do what's best for that particular story, that particular film.
A moment, let me translate. Что в зависимости от того, какой фильм, там, в жанре, каком вы работаете, вы выбираете использовать ли музыку в фильме, да, вот, например, он говорит, что в фильме «Я легенда» они почти отказались от музыкального сопровождения для того, чтобы заставить фильм выглядеть максимально живым, настоящим, и я задала вопрос, можно ли это использовать как совет для того, чтобы, там, условно, над фильмом, над которым мы работаем, помимо того, чтобы мы там отказались от музыкального сопровождения, что еще можно сделать для того, чтобы превратить фильм, сделать его более живым? Он сказал, что это зависит от фильма, да, то есть от кино. Anything else you'd like to share about the I'm a Legend? What else? What other tricks you used to make it such a great film?
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm glad you liked it. It's as a film editor, and you approach a film, you basically want to make everything look as good as it possibly can, right? And if you do that well, then it becomes the work that you do becomes invisible, right? It's like if you're noticing the editing's not that good, You want to use the best performances, the best cinematography, the very best acting takes, and put them together in a seamless way, so that it becomes kind of a thing all of its own, where you don't really notice the parts, where it becomes its own, it becomes hopefully a work of art.
Thank you. Он сказал, что для того, чтобы, монтаж, от монтажа очень много что зависит. Хорошим монтажом можно сделать из простой картины шедевр, но также и испортить ее. Could you tell us about maybe, so you talked about seamless montage, other ways or maybe some obvious ways how you can ruin great footage with bad montage?
Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you talked about seamless montage. So I have the question. Is there an obvious way or maybe something you can do to ruin great footage with bad montage?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what you mean. But, basically, you look for complementary shots and put them together in a way that they complement each other as much as you can.
Okay, thank you. Что он сказал, что материал нужно, над ним нужно долго работать и склейку делать с умом, то есть подходить максимально детально, не спешить, да, и подходить к склейке с умом.
Вы спросите, если неправильно снять. Если неправильно снять.
Okay, so we have a question from audience. If the footage is bad, what tips we can have like to make it look better in montage? Or maybe you can come up with an example of a movie that had like bad footage, but it was saved during a montage.
I'm not allowed to tell you that. My directors would be very unhappy. Well, I mean, if you've got a film with bad footage, my first suggestion is look for another job.
True, thank you. Он говорит, что задали вопрос, а если плохой материал, как его склеить? Он говорит, если материал у вас плохой, ищите другую работу. Okay, so you would not come up with an example. Not even, we're not talking about your...
Not really. I mean, all films, there are flaws in the footage. Whenever you guys are filmmakers, you know, when you shoot, you don't always get what you want in every take. So part of the job of editing is to find the best pieces and put them together so that it feels like a seamless piece, right?
Yes.
So, and that's just part of the job. And, you know, there are editing tools you can use, like just from cutting from different angles and things to do that. You know, and in some films, you know, you have to do it more. In some films, you have to do it less. I personally try to use as little editing as possible to tell a story, make it as seamless as possible.
Стараться использовать как можно меньше вообще склеек для того, чтобы история смотрелась максимально живой, без прерываний, без пауз. Okay, could you dive into what is for you personally the hardest to montage? Like we have action scenes or like more drama scenes. Like, could you tell personally what is most difficult or which comes the easiest for you, like to put together?
That's a very good question. Well, you know, I've done a lot of different kinds of films, and I find them all challenging. You know, a lot. I find action to be kind of easier in a funny way than drama. Because action, there's a logic to action, and you can mess around with it a little bit. You can, as long as you keep things moving, you can get away with a lot of different things. So I find action quite, it can be challenging, but it's actually quite, you know, I find it quite easy to do an action scene. Whereas drama needs to have more structure. And you have to be more cognizant of the acting. The acting really has to take precedent.
Thank you so much. Мистер Варман говорит, что экшн-сцены лично для него намного комфортнее монтировать, потому что там можно спрятать какие-то фейлы и так далее. Но что касается драмы, там нужна четкая структура, и лично для него монтаж картин драмы намного сложнее. Может быть, у вас есть какие-то вопросы?
Люди в черном, он монтирует, да? Люди в черном, он монтирует. И про динамичный монтаж спросите.
Сформулируйте ваш вопрос.
Так, вот Люди в черном, он монтирует, да? В основном в американском фильме там динамики, динамичный монтаж. О нем вот мастер-класс пусть расскажет, динамичный монтаж. Там много планов там.
Okay, so we have a question from the audience about the dynamic montage. So you worked with on Men in Black, right? Third part, yes.
I did some work on Men in Black, yes.
It's great film, great work. So the question is, could you tell a little bit about the dynamic montage in that movie, and like, did you have to use some other new tricks with that movie, or did you operate with the same tools that you have for montage? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
You know, it was a lot of the same, because that movie was a sequel. There were a lot of tricks that had already been established, and relationships were established. So it was a lot of the same visual effects and the same kind of things that went on in the two Men in Black films before it. You know, pretty much the same, and the same director as well.
монтировать, потому что это как бы сиквел, уже есть от чего отталкиваться, да, то есть не нужно было придумывать колесо заново. Yeah, so you didn't have to invent a wheel, right? You had like a blueprint to go by. Yeah.
You did, yes. It was pretty much, yeah, it was all the
So
same
you,
stuff.
yeah, you were just having fun with it. Yeah. Да, то есть это то же самое, они ничего нового не придумывали, у них был блупринт, да.
Там у нас сидит Адиб Насиров, мастер монтажа, вот заслуженная. Адиб был, bu savolingiz bormi? Hamkasbingiz. Да.
Может быть, у вас
Ой,
есть?
у меня есть
Да,
вопрос.
да.
Микрофон.
Yes.
Да, хотелось бы. Да нет, на самом деле по-английски вряд ли классно
Ну, давайте
сформулирую.
по-русски я переведу.
Как вот в вашей практике строилась работа с режиссером? То есть насколько это была самостоятельная работа, либо совместная работа и так далее? То есть была ли возможность сделать там первый драфт самостоятельно и потом уже включаться в работу?
Типа, когда он работает с
Да, я поняла вопрос.
режиссером.
Yes, we have another question from the audience about your work with directors. So we know that there are different types of directors. Some give you more freedom with editing, right? And some maybe limit for you for a little bit. So we have a question. Could you tell us about work with both of those types of directors? You don't have to tell us their names, but yes, so whether they have limited your work and how did it affect the final montage, or if you had an opportunity to, on a movie which you worked on, to have a draft that you that you put together yourself, then whether the director liked it or not, like how did that process of the relationship, how did it go? Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, it's interesting. It's pretty much the same no matter who you work with, because they're so busy. You're editing while they're shooting. So the minute they start shooting film, I start cutting, and I'm cutting along with them. So by the time they're done shooting, usually within a week or maybe 2 weeks, I have a film together to show them. Now, sometimes it's a little long because it'll have all the scenes in it that they shot. They may not all end up in there. But for me, the hard work is the first edit, right? It's going through all the footage, deciding what it all is, putting it together the first time. Honestly, after that, it's easy. Pretty much stays the same from that point on. It gets tighter, it gets shorter. We play with different takes sometimes, different acting, but 90% it stays the same. And that's true of pretty much all the directors I've worked with. A lot of times those directors have very specific ideas about editing, and that is obvious to me from the film that they shoot, right? So I'll put it together the way that they want it, what they had in mind generally, right? Because it's shot to go together that way. Now, some directors don't work that way. They just shoot a lot of film, and there's a lot of opportunity to do different things. But even with those guys, I find that they don't make a lot of changes. It stays pretty close to the way I put it together. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Just give me a moment to translate. Касательно вашего вопроса, да, он говорит, что...
Если что, все понял.
Окей,
Нет, мы не поняли.
Вообще со всеми режиссерами работа происходит одинаково, пока они снимают фильм, монтаж готовится параллельно. И к моменту, когда фильм уже готов, есть определенная часть монтажа, тот самый драфт, да, черновой лист. И к моменту, когда они смотрят этот драфт, половина из этого драфта остается в финальном монтаже.
90%.
Да, то есть мистер Варман говорит, что он лично выбирает, да, там long-каты, да, то есть длинные там какие-то сцены, короткие, да, и он это делает на месте, плюс он говорит, что ему, я так понимаю, в силу опыта всегда понятно, что именно хочет режиссер, в зависимости от того, какой он фильм снимает, да, и есть в монтаже определенные там инструменты, которые нужно использовать в зависимости от того, какой фильм вы снимаете, там экшен, драма и так далее. Еще вопросы? Да.
Какой самый любимый фильм, исходя из того, что монтажировал, и в каком проекте он бы хотел поработать?
We have another question from the audience. So, which one of the movies that you have worked on do you consider your like best work, or you just particularly have a favor of? And second question, are there projects or directors or certain fields of movies, maybe some indie or something, that you would have liked to work on?
Well, yes. I want to work on all the movies, but I can't. So, I guess my favorite movie. Maybe the favorite movie that I worked on was a movie that Steve Zalian directed called Searching for Bobby Fischer, about a little boy who plays chess. I had a lot of fun putting that one together, and I'm very happy with the way it turned out. Another film I had a lot of fun working on was U-571, a movie about submarines during World War II. We had a really good time. We shot in Rome and in Malta, and all the actors were really nice people, and we had a great time making that film.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. То есть это «В поисках Бобби Фишера», его любимая работа, которая... «В поисках Бобби Фишера». Да, про мальчика, который в шахматы играет. И работа, которой он гордится, которая ему понравилась, это вот его, я так понимаю, одна из недавних, может быть, работ про Ю-571, про субмарину, про подводную лодку. Да, он также снимал фильм. I have a personal question, Mr. Warmer.
Sure.
Yes. So you're not giving us a lot of names concerning the director. So, but I have a question. I am personally a big fan of indie horror movies. I don't know if you are. Yes, but from what I noticed from the montage, so it has a different approach, or maybe not that different, and you will open my eyes to that. So if we talk about Ari Aster, the director of Midsummer, I don't know if you've seen that movie, or if we talk about Jordan Peele, they have this unique approach to horror movies, and they're not using a lot of like this the music that is scary, or they're not a lot of jump scares. It's the way it's shot and it's cut at the end that gives you the chills. So can you maybe enumerate or think of some tricks that they use not only while editing but while shooting, and how it comes together that it gives you the chills without like all the jump scares and anything? Like, how does this magic work?
Yeah, good question. And, I'm not an expert on horror films, unfortunately. I've done a little bit of work on like Constantine, but not a lot.
No, it's my favorite movie, Constantine.
It's really, it takes its individual cases. I know what you're talking about with the standard jump scares and things like that. But part of what happens is that those directors use is they draw things out and make things a little longer than they should be. So it sort of builds anxiety, which is great. And then when things happen, you're sort of anticipating them, and then when they happen, it exacerbates and intensifies the effect.
It's very well put. Yes, this is exactly what I feel when the anxiety is building up, and at the end you're just left with complete horror. Yeah, would you like to work on a horror film one day in your life, or you're not interested?
No, I would. I like all films, honestly. I mean, Constantine was kind of a horror film, not quite, but almost.
No, it's kind of a mix of genres, the Constantine. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. A moment, yes, I'll take a moment to translate. Я задала свой личный под себя вопрос.
Movies are harder. Animation's a lot of work. It's a lot of busy work. It's not particularly hard. Just a lot of
repetitious work. Мне сложно, просто очень много рутинной, монотонной работы. Ага. And so it's repetitive, you say, that when you work on animation.
It is. Yeah, there's a lot. You edit the scenes over and over and over again because they keep changing. The dialogue changes and the shots change. So you're going over the same material quite often and a lot. So there's a lot of, I guess, busy work if that translates. You know,
Does
a
it
lot of repetitious work.
So does it have same creative freedom as working on a movie?
No, not really. It's kind of just the opposite.
I see. Yeah. So он говорит, что работать над анимацией интересно, но работа монотонная, и там нет такой креативной свободы, как если бы он занимался монтажом фильма. Еще вопросы? Да.
Туда давай. Можно?
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Антон, и такой вам вопрос. Скажите, какие монтажные программы мистер Варман использует для монтажа в современном кино? Есть ли там графика, и какой монтаж в вашем опыте оказался самым сложным, и как вы выходили из этой ситуации? Спасибо.
So we have another question from the audience, from I think our tech guy. He's asking about what software or like what programs did you use to edit your movies? And second question, I think we had asked you something similar, like which of your project was most difficult in terms of like technological approach? Which one was the hardest, to edit?
Right. Good question. Well, you know, editing takes place in your head, so it really doesn't
Ты
matter
монтажируешь
what
в
you
голове,
edit on.
неважно, на чем работаешь. Да.
Right? It's pictures and words. So I personally use Avid to edit
Avid.
now,
Avid.
the Avid system.
Avid.
And it's I think it's the best of all the electronic editing systems. But you know, it all depends on what you know and what you want to use. It's all pictures and words, right? So whatever you can use to put them together, it's fine. And I worked on film for years, so where I was actually physically cutting it, and that worked fine too.
Just give me a moment. Говорит, что в основном процесс монтажа происходит в голове. Неважно, какую программу вы используете, и все зависит от вашего опыта. Он говорит, у меня рука набита, я давно работаю в кино, вот, поэтому неважно, да, какую вы программу используете, и все зависит от того, какой конечный результат вы хотите получить. И он работает на программе, я не знаю, Avid. Ну, значит, вы знаете, вот.
Avid Media Composer.
And going back to the second question, yes, which one of your movies was technologically like the hardest to edit for you personally?
Technologically, yeah. I mean, I Am Legend was tricky because we had the
Я легенда
CG
был самый
characters.
сложный,
That was
потому что
interesting.
там очень много
There was a
компьютерной
movie that I
графики.
did called Mars Needs Moms. That was all shot with mocap. It was all done with real actors, but it was an animated film with mocap. So that I basically had to edit it 3 different times. I had to edit the performances, then we had to design the shots.
Тайна красной планеты по-английски по-другому будет. Найдите, пожалуйста. Thank you very much. Он говорит, что касательно анимации, вот сейчас ребята найдут полностью название по-английски, что там тоже было сложно монтировать, потому что там было motion capture, да, motion, то есть когда актеры, живые актеры играют, как вот в «Аватаре», может быть, вы смотрели, да, и живые актеры играют, а потом это все переходит на... Вот, я говорила, вот, то есть и они там, то есть это тоже сложно, то есть когда живая картинка и потом то, как, потом она переводится в графику, и «Я легенда» был технологически самым сложным фильмом для него монтажировать в плане монтажа, потому что там очень много компьютерно генерированной графики, вот, да, да.
Есть ли у него своя мастерская, есть ли у него свои ученики, если нет, то планирует ли?
Oh, we have an interesting question from the audience. Do you have your workshop or a studio? Do you have apprenticeship? And if not, would you like to have some young aspiring students under your wing?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Usually I will have an apprentice on many projects. You know, it depends on the situation, how involved they can be. You know, it's sort of up to them. That we usually do have an intern or an apprentice on the project. Although a lot of times they don't get to do that much.
Oh.
Depends on how busy we are and how compressed the time is. But yeah, it does happen.
Он говорит, что у них часто бывают как вот ученики или там первокурсники, второкурсники, которых они берут работать над фильмами, да, которые они монтируют в настоящий момент, как интерны, да, то есть такие бывают. А я могу спросить про курс или школу, если вы хотите. Да? The follow-up question, would you ever considering maybe teaching? Yes.
Well, I've guest lectured a few times at different schools at USC and UCLA, but I never really considered being, like a teacher or instructor. And I didn't get my master's degree, so maybe I couldn't be a professor. I only have a bachelor's of art.
I see. Он говорит, что он читал лекции в калифорнийских университетах, да, на разных платформах, но, говорит, никогда не задумался о том, чтобы преподавать именно мастерство монтажа, говорит, потому что у него нет, он не заканчивал магистратуру, он заканчивал бакалавриат и говорит, наверное, мне не позволят, говорит, работать там. Yeah, thank you very much.
Еще вопрос есть,
да?
Вот он много знаменитых фильмов снимал, то есть монтировал, и в этих фильмах много знаменитых актеров выступали, как Уилл Смит, Джон Траволта, например, да, вот, и Джон Клод Ван Дамм, и еще другие.
Так,
вот,
вопрос?
Может он сказать о этих актерах, да? Как с ними они работали, да, в площадке там, то есть как
так
они...
он же монтажом занимался, он же не...
Да, вот,
он с режиссерами работает только.
Может он работал, может не работал.
Хотите, чтобы я спросила? Ага. So we have another question from the audience. So you worked on a lot of famous movies with a lot of great directors and great actors. So we talked about establishing like these relationships with directors where they allow you to have this creative freedom or where you see eye to eye when it comes to editing. How much during the process of editing did you or have you not have faced with the work with actors? Or maybe you just have personal relationships with some? Yes.
Well, generally speaking, I do get to the set, but not a lot. Depends on where they're shooting. But I definitely get to know the actors generally if I'm working on a location show because we all end up hanging out together. But I'll see the actors at the end when we do dialogue replacement with ADR. A lot of times I'll direct the actors when we're looping them, if you know what that is.
Yeah.
Cool. At the end, we're replacing dialogue when we need extra lines and things. So I do get to interface with them a little bit, but not a lot, to be honest.
Thank you. Он говорит, что с актерами он работает не часто, потому что не бывает его на площадке съемочной, но он говорит, я пересекаюсь с ними, когда нужно переозвучить какие-то там фразы, предложения, и это уже происходит в студии. Вот. Но говорит, не так часто, как хотелось бы, да, он с ними взаимодействует.
С Уилл Смитом он много раз встречался, как озвучивали, да, как-то позвали. Может о нем рассказать?
Я могу спросить, но это не очень правильный вопрос, да. So we have a question from, I think this is just a personal interest of this gentleman. He's interested about your encounter with Will Smith. Have you had him to revoice his lines, and did he strike you as a, yeah?
Will Smith?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Will was in the editing room quite a bit. He's a really nice guy.
Was he just
we
watching?
Actually, on I Am Legend, we changed the ending right at the end, which was very hard to do because it included some CG characters, and Will was very, very helpful in that. We did a little mock shoot with a camera to try out some things, and we did that in the editing room. And Will came in and we did that. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, during that time, did you have it in mind, like when you were shooting two versions, the two endings of that movie, because they are crucial, did you have in mind that there's going to be a sequel, or did you hope for a sequel?
No, not really, not personally, but I think there will be a sequel. I think they're talking about it right now. But what I wanted to do, when we had two different endings for the movie, and I wanted them to release both endings. I suggested that they actually have both movies come out at the same time and not tell anybody. So then the next day you go into work or go to school and you go, God, I saw the I Am Legend over the weekend. I can't believe they killed Will Smith. I go, wait a minute, no, I saw that movie. He was fine. You know?
Very fun.
And then you tell them later, but the studio wouldn't go for it.
Yeah, it's very fun, but it sounds like a very cruel prank. Yeah. Он говорит, что...
You can get people to go see the movie twice.
Yes. That's a win for a box office. Yeah. Он говорит, что да, он работал с Уилл Смитом, и для фильма «Я легенда», вы знаете, что там две концовки, где главный герой умирает и где он выживает. Не знаю, если кто-то не знал. Вот. Он говорит, что они приглашали его также переснимать, и он очень помог в этом плане. Также он был в комнате, где происходил сам монтаж этого кино. И он говорит, что у мистера Вармана было свое предложение выпустить оба эти фильма параллельно, где две концовки. Говорит, было бы забавно, если бы там кто-то приходил в школу и говорил, ой, как жалко, что Уилл умер, а другой говорил, о чем ты? Все же нормально, да. То есть, но ему не разрешила кинокомпания. Вот, такой вот интересный. Да?
Ну, он профессионал, он своего дела, он много фильмов, короче, монтажирует. В процессе его всей деятельности не было такого, чтобы он хотел создать свой фильм. Ну вот, исходя из своих трудов, работ, которые он сделал, да? Может, у него какие-то
We have one more question from the audience for you. During your process of like editing and working on so many movies, have you ever had maybe an inspiration or a desire, maybe you still have to work not as an editor, but as a director on a movie?
Yes, I have, and I've almost directed a couple of times. It was actually a movie where the director got very sick. He had a big problem with his neck. So the producer called me up and said, you know, they're gonna try giving the director a shot of cortisone in his neck, and if it doesn't work, we need you to take over and finish the movie and start shooting in the morning. And unfortunately, the shot cured his neck, and the director continued on, so I didn't get to do that.
That's a bummer. Yeah. What about?
Well, it was okay for him because he felt better.
What about movies of your own? Have you had any like creative ideas, like to shoot a movie of your own?
Yeah, I have, and I've written scripts, and I've done writing. Like I collaborated with the director on U571. I wrote a lot of the third act with the director Jonathan Mostow. And I'm actually working on a screenplay right now for a movie.
Oh, it's good for you.
That I'm supposed to direct. We'll see.
Oh, it's good. Would you tell us a little bit about that project? No?
I'm not allowed.
I see.
I'm sworn to secrecy.
Well,
Sorry.
then we will wait. We will wait then until some information about it comes out. Он работал. Однажды его пригласили работать режиссером над одной картиной, доделывать ее, потому что режиссеру, который изначально снимал эту картину, у него болела шея, его просили Вармана заменить. Но этому режиссеру сделали укол обезболивающего, все у него прошло, и, к сожалению, работа режиссером она не удалась. Что касается фильма про подводную лодку Ю-571, мистер Варман говорит, что третий акт к этой картине он писал самостоятельно. И в данный момент он работает над сценарием, о котором он нам не может рассказать, над фильмом, который он в будущем планирует снимать сам. Но информация об этом он пока не делится. Да. Может быть, отпустим уже
да,
просто 12 часов там.
Сейчас последний вопрос, и потом мы его поблагодарим. Так как он режиссер с большим опытом,
Чем отличается вообще монтаж? Скажем, в 80-х он делал «Кикбоксер» фильм, Жан-Клод Ван Дамм. Это 80-е. И сегодняшний тенденция монтажа. Расскажешь?
Расскажите немножечко об этом. Это экшен, это драма, то есть я просто не смотрела.
Да, классический боевик. 90.
Вопрос во времени.
Вопрос даже не про Жан-Клод Ван Дамм.
Не, я поняла, мне просто... Yes, we have a last question for you, sir. So about the tendency of montage. So back in the 80s, I assume you've done work with Jean-Claude Van Damme on the movie Kickboxer. I think it was, yes, translated to that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Kickboxer,
yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yes. And so the question is about the tendency of montage. I mean, it was back in the 80s, but nowadays, like, how did the editing, like, how did it change? Are there anything that is still the same about editing process, or there's some new tricks that have to be used to make a movie, I don't know, more interesting and vivid nowadays?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, and I of course, editing styles have changed over the years, but I personally think that it has to do with the content of the movie and what the film is, how, what the editing style is, more than like, the time. Or, I mean, there are things you can do now with an Avid that make, speeding shots up and visual effects and, using CG and things like that you couldn't do before. But I don't know that it necessarily changes editing that much. It just makes, but there are more tricks, more tools that you can use. I used a lot of video kind of tricks in the Charlie's Angels movies with snap zooms and speeding things up, and there's a lot of CG involved in those films. But I don't know that I cut them any differently today than I did back in the 90s. Probably pretty similar.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Он говорит, что да, есть моменты, которые меняются. Это зависит от программы, на которой вы монтируете. Например, программа, на которой он работает сегодня. Как называется еще раз? Да, вот, что там более развернутый функционал, который позволяет использовать какие-то новые, да, вот, приемы в монтаже. Но интересное заключение он сделал, что несмотря на то, что «Кикбоксер» он снимал в 80-м, «Ангелы Чарли», он очень много где был использован компьютерной графики. В целом, если бы он монтировал эти фильмы сегодня, мало бы что изменилось, потому что вот он как видел эту картинку тогда, так он и видит и сейчас.
Okay. Да. Сейчас переведите. Мы будем продолжать переговоры с ним по его визиту в Узбекистан. Участие в Ташкентском кинофестивале, вот, то, что его гонорар, его приезд, все будет покрываться за счет государства. И спасибо еще раз ему, что он был с нами.
Yes. Mr. Warman, we would like to thank you, all of us, for spending some time with us and answering our questions. I know it's a bit late where you're at, but again, thank you very much from the bottoms of our heart. Concerning the October's visit, we will stay in touch with you and with your representatives about you coming here in October to take part in the cinematography festival in Tashkent. And yes, every question you have, we will be happy to answer. We will cover all the expenses that it will take you it will take us to get you here. The only thing, yes, we need is your time schedule, yes, your willingness, yes, and your good mood. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, listen, it's my pleasure. It's nice speaking with you all. And thank you for letting me answer some questions. And, I look forward to hopefully meeting some or all of you in person if things work out.
Yeah, likewise, sir. Likewise. And, yes. Thank you very much again. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you. Who's gonna a Zoom call? Who's on the Zoom call?
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye, sir. Bye. Would you switch it off?